Hi, everyone. I'm Jason Morgan, editor of Fleet Equipment, and welcome to Fleet Equipment Unscripted. Today, we're talking with Jerry Robertson, Chief Technology Officer of Bolt Systems. Jerry, how's everything going on your end? How is it working with customers in this new normal?
Well, it's a totally different world that we're in these days. Everything from the customer, the small customer, a little guy trying to make it through it, to the large customers, which are with toilet paper. So it's a different world. We're operating, 95% of our people operate from home, but our business continues. We operate not probably at 100% efficiency, but we are able to take care of our customers, be able to help them through and literally rework their routes and what they do on a daily basis.
Right, very good. And today we're talking fleet management systems. We're kind of going to take a holistic approach here. Regular viewers and readers would know that fleet equipment, we really focus on the equipment management, but we know that fleet managers are juggling a lot, especially as you noted these days with changing applications, changing duty cycles, a changing market almost day by day. So we'll get started here. And first question, equipment management, a clear focus, a core pillar of fleet operations, but how does that responsibility and the visibility of the operation of the equipment play into a larger fleet management system view?
Again, things are changing dramatically from not only the effect Amazon's had on retail customers. So looking at fleets, it's time really for people to relook at their entire business and say, where am I in this sequence? What should I be looking for in the future? And let's look at what kind of equipment, what kind of management, what kind of an ELD. Obviously, we want to be compliant, 100% compliant on any kind of safety measure. But over and above that, what are our customers expecting? What do our shippers want? And what do the consignees look like? So it's a lot more electronics and data now. I would say we're having to gather 100% more data than we might have looked at 2 years ago. That data then translates into how do you run your fleet, how do you buy your equipment, what's your trailer to tractor ratio. Like I said, I would just take a step back when you have time, look at that business, look at your customers and say, where are we going?
For sure. You bring up the ELD technology, which is something we're talking a lot about because one, it kind of puts everybody, all fleets onto that electronic platform. And two, maybe their renewal cycle is coming up where they either have to renew their platform or maybe look at different platforms, or they're just looking at the data for the first time and thinking, I wish I could see more. This is good, but I need more. I need a more holistic solution. So definitely interesting. And even your point of collecting more data than 2 years ago is amazing because even 2 years ago, fleet management, operations of equipment was really influenced by data, and now we're doing even more.
And that's for sure. I think when you're looking at either replacing or doing different ELDs, you got a wide option out there now. Everything from what we used to call the onboard recorders to the ELDs, or which we'll call it full function recorder. There's a lot of things now of driver apps out on the street. I know we, as one company, have provided a driver app. There's a lot more things required of the driver than we did before. Loads are quite different in that we're not looking at a lot of one pick, one drops. We may be looking at a lot of LTL type freight, maybe full truckload that you add one pallet on the back end. All of these things make it different, and they're going to be the difference in making money and not making money. So we really suggest you look at those and the price you pay. There's a lot of relatively low priced ELDs that are compliant, that manage all their equipment, manage all your hours and your equipment, but then have that making sure that the vendor of those ELDs provide what we call an API, which lets either your company or a company like ours have access to that and be able to provide real-time management of not only your assets, but the drivers, what they're doing, with the hours, what other services can they do? Can you do more drop-in hooks and less live loads and unloads? That makes a difference in driver time. Clearly, the new generation of drivers are looking at more home time. So how can I rerun routes and maybe run relay routes? We're running through and each driver gets to be at home, but have different domicile locations. So the data that we gather, we're able to make more management decisions with it because now we know more what people are looking for. The driver apps, the majority of the drivers on the road now do have smartphones. And the driver apps can be very good as far as turn directions, as far as being really up to date with where they are on the hours. Can they really take that next backhaul and start with it? So that data flow between driver and dispatcher, the ELD, all of that now starts to make a lot more sense and really streamline your operation.
Right. Can you, so that's kind of a good example. You're mentioning routing here, because I was going to ask what's the low hanging fruit, right? Because either equipment managers were kind of set in their ways or used to focusing on one thing, or if they have this technology, now they're looking at a lot of data points, right? There are a lot of possibilities. So you mentioned routing. Do you have any other examples of what you see most often working with customers as kind of routes they could go down for that quick ROI efficiency boost?
Yeah, we're seeing in the, we do a lot of work with the private fleets, obviously. But now they're able to do a lot of backhauls because in the past, dedicated fleets and private fleets, had a lot of deadhead miles, truck miles. So they're able to look at that route, analyze the route, and see exactly how many hours they would have left at the end of the deliveries to these stores. And that applies for your line haul, your day-to-day drivers also, because it's going to allow them to say, what kind of freight can I pick up in this location I'm going to? What are the requirements on that freight? Is it something that I can pick up, take my 10-hour break, and still have plenty of time to deliver? Or do I have to look for something that I could have to deliver today? So you're looking at a lot better use of drive time as opposed to just on duty or opposed to idle time. So in that whole operation, it really requires the dispatchers to be on top, to look at screens and see where people are, whether through your ELD provider or through a software such as ours, to see where are they, how fast are they going, can they determine or send an ETA by either text or email to the consignee, and everyone streamlining and a whole lot less wait time.
Right. Going back to something you said earlier, you mentioned APIs, which even for my layman's terms, I know that is just a way to connect data and integrate data, right? So mentioning that if you have an existing ELD platform, making sure those are available. But can you kind of give me an example of what that means to you? So if I wanted to work with Bolt and wanted to integrate, what I would see, what you would offer, and kind of what that means as a platform is to be able to accept those APIs and work with different solutions providers?
Sure. Those in today's world, the technology we have out there are a lot of processes you can use to exchange data. So we wrap that down into an API. So it would be a certain amount of data. And I'll kind of go through a checklist of what we do. We look at each truck about every 5 minutes and ping that truck. What I call ping is effectively saying, hello, where are you? And the ELD comes back and says, I'm here. So we know that. We also can look at how fast they're running, what kind of speed they're running. We can also determine from what's in there to what kind of area are you working in Southwest Texas? Or are you working in the upper Middle East? So with that data, then we go back to our customers, who would be the operation managers or dispatchers. So we also can look at individual driver tendencies of what they do. Now you can start doing real-time planning of what those next steps and where to go, even things like planning fuel stops, planning rest stops. All of that data is in there. So we'll be looking at that from one point. About every 15 minutes, we're going to look at your hours left on the day, or how many hours you might have left on the week. We can display that to the driver. We can send messages. Now that becomes a little interesting because we have to try to figure out when we can get a message to a driver without disrupting them from their primary job, which is driving. Right. So if they're near a rest stop or near a scheduled stop, then we can start transferring data back and forth. We can also take a lot of pictures. We can scan. So in the for-hire market, our objective as a fleet management system is to provide an invoice to the consignee before the truck lights leave the lot. So in this case, we're looking at reducing cash flow from maybe 1 to 3 days to 5 minutes. So this is just part of what we do. An API is just two partners agreeing on how you're going to move data back and forth. So we don't want people to look at it like it's something magic and extremely hard to deal with. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, right. Because to me, it does still sound like magic. I mean, you rattled off a bunch of really cool capabilities and options there, and I think even to fleet managers or anyone who doesn't know the inner workings of technology, it can kind of seem like magic and that kind of thing. But to your point and what you mentioned earlier, and how you're working with customers, the API and the system is just one part of it. Working directly with you, much in the same way as fleets always have for the hard parts business, right? The OEMs and the suppliers is what it's coming down to, building those custom solutions to make sure you're finding those, filling those needs for that operation, right?
That's true. We throw a lot of terms around like artificial intelligence and magic computation. It really isn't any of that. What you do have to do is interview your people first, your equipment, your people, and also the people you're picking up the data from. It's kind of profiling. I hate to use the word profiling, but that's what we do. But it tells us the way companies operate. How do docks operate? If we can put that data into the system, that is just experience. We know that some drivers have a different level of experience than the second driver. Well, this is just text. It's just data. Right. But that data can be pulled in to adjust algorithms or formulas, if you will, to make it run smoother. So we run on two types of things. One is static data. Static would be anything about the truck, the trailer, the freight, anything in there. We do a lot with the freight. You know, if we're dealing with a frozen product, that's different than dealing with a palletized freight. So those become not artificial intelligence, just plain old experience is what it is.
Right.
So we use that, and then all that goes with our dynamic data, which is coming from a lot of our suppliers, which might be trailer tracking or ELDs, reefers. There's a lot of data about continuous flow manufacturing. We do a lot of just-in-time, so the data flow back from factory saying, we need you here at this dock at this time. Right. So it's, again, in this age of internet and Internet of Things, I think it's called, but it still depends on the fleet manager, the dispatchers, and their ability to make sense of this stuff without just getting reams of data that's meaningless.
Right. Right. And that's why it's nice to have providers like yourself to give a call to and say, what if we do this or what if we do that? Because you probably already thought about it. I just might not know how to use it or how to implement it, right?
That is, you know, I have to tell you, because we're technology, we can teach some, but we learn. Every new customer we bring in, we learn something new, right. Some new way they handle it. And that translates right back into the corporate P&L line. If you're a private fleet or if it's your own profit and loss statement, but you can directly translate that back and see where that has an impact on.
For sure, for sure. Jerry, pleasure talking with you. Really great insight. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Appreciate that, and good luck to all those drivers out there.